Now that we've brought in a few images, let's have a quick look at some of the things we can do to them using the Properties panel. You can certainly move things around, and that's going to change the X and Y positions, and we've already changed the height. But let's have a look at some of the transform options. You can scale the image if you wish, and right now it is locked, so width and height are changing in unison. More interesting though is that you can skew an image horizontally. I'll undo that with Command Z or Control Z. You can skew an image vertically, and that's an interesting option. You could maybe get two images on the sides of a box. And if I Alt drag or Option drag, then I can easily duplicate a shape and potentially do something exactly like that to get one box and then the other. And moving, perhaps click away, click back on this shape. There we go, and move it up so that it's in sync with that one. And effectively I'll be able to build a box out of my 2D shapes simply by messing with the skew options here. I can also rotate. Note that these objects are rotating independently because they are independent objects. And I can also govern the origin. Now that's interesting what it's doing there. It's basically changing the anchor point. So the origin is the anchor point, and by default it was at 50%, meaning that you're rotating around the center of the object. And normally that's what you want. I'm just going to reset these back to 0. If you do have multiple shapes like this, you may want to group them together. Grouping isn't terribly obvious in the timeline. It is much more obvious up here in Elements. And if you have the group selected, then suddenly a rotation is going to affect the entire group and not just the elements within it. So it's an important lesson to learn if you want to treat multiple objects as a single object to let them rotate together. Make sure you group them first. There's also many other things you can do to images, so let's look at some other options other than transform. Before we go on, I'm just going to undo that to get it looking a little bit more normal.